For decades, we've all thought of the internet as this digital frontier, right? A place with pretty much no rules, just boundless freedom. Well, that's all changing. Right now, a huge shift is happening across the board. You could call it a great correction. It's like the wild west of the web is finally being tamed. That open range, it's getting fenced in, and the rulebook is being totally rewritten as we speak.
And this quote, it just nails what's happening. It says, we've basically gone back to the days of scrambled cable TV. I mean, if you remember premium channels back in the day, they were just this fuzzy, scrambled mess, unless you paid up. And that's kind of what the internet is becoming now. What used to be this wide-open broadcast is now getting chopped up by paywalls and age gates. It's like we're back in that era of scrambled signals all over again.
Yeah, it's a really simple idea, but the implications are just massive. The whole Wild West thing, where you could explore anonymously, that's over. It's being replaced by a new age of rules, of fences, and of very, very real consequences. That open digital range is being carved up, and all of us are having to learn the new rules of the road. Okay, so when I say fences, what do those actually look like in the real world? Well, in this first part, we're going to dive into this huge wave of new regulations and controls that are popping up literally all over the globe. And what's driving this is a really fascinating generational shift. Think about it. The very same people who were the pioneers, the ones fighting for internet freedom back in the day, well, now they have kids. And they're realizing that the niche, kind of nerdy playground they grew up on is now this massive, high-stakes world that everyone is in. So their whole priority has flipped. It's gone from fighting for freedom to fighting to protect their own kids with new rules and regulations. And look, this isn't just some abstract idea. It's happening right now all over the world. You've got the UK, where Xbox and Spotify are now making you verify your age. In South Korea, which is a total gaming powerhouse, kids under 18 can't even get on Nintendo Online. Here in the US, states are starting to demand ID for adult websites. But check this out. YouTube is taking it to a whole other level. They're developing AI that doesn't care what age you say you are. Nope. It analyzes your behavior online to figure out if you're actually a kid. Wild, right? But you know how it goes, right? Whenever you build a fence, someone's going to try to climb it, dig under it, or just find some ridiculously clever way around it. So in this next section, we're going to look at how all these new rules are making people and companies adapt in some really, really unexpected ways. You've heard that saying, the road to hell is paved with good intentions, right? Well, the road to internet regulation is kind of like that. It starts with good ideas, but it often leads to some pretty strange places. When you try to control something as massive and chaotic as the internet, you're going to get some unintended consequences. It's just inevitable. Okay, here's a great example. The indie gaming platform itch.io. They wanted to avoid any controversy, so they just put a blanket ban on all adult games. Makes sense, right? Well, the result was that a ton of totally legitimate horror games, not porn, but horror, got caught in that net and were just deleted. Or look at Spotify. Their music side is super controlled, right? But the podcast section, it's basically become this digital back alley. You can find all sorts of pirated stuff, unfiltered rants. It just thrives there with almost no oversight. And of course, for every new rule, a creative workaround is born. This is where human ingenuity really shines and gets kind of weird. People don't just see a new fence and give up. No, they find these clever and sometimes absolutely hilarious ways to game the system. Okay, you have to hear this one. It's a perfect example of that ingenuity. So some websites in the UK, they need you to do a live facial scan to prove you're over 18. Turn your head, open your mouth, that kind of thing. So what's the hack? Well, gamers figured out they could just point their camera at their TV, fire up the game Death Stranding, and go into the photo mode. From there, they can make the main character do all the head turns and mouth movements for them. And the craziest part, it actually works. A video game character is fooling the age verification AI. You can't make this stuff up. And it's not just gamers and users bending the rules. Companies are doing it too. This one's a classic. California regulators told Tesla, hey, your so-called robo-taxis need to have a human in the car who can take over in an emergency. So what was Tesla's brilliantly simple solution? They literally just hired people to sit in the driver's seat and do nothing. It's basically like, You said we needed a human in the driverless car, so we put a human in the driverless car. It's a driverless car with a driver. The absurdity is just perfect. Okay, but this is where it stops being just about funny workarounds. Because when the stakes get higher, all this pressure starts to fuel a new kind of arms race. And this isn't a race with tanks and planes. This one is being fought over the two things that are probably going to define the next 100 years: artificial intelligence and intellectual property. And here, the stakes are not about fooling an age gate anymore. They are completely geopolitical. The US put up a huge fence, trying to block China from getting their hands on the best AI hardware. The workaround? A massive black market. It's estimated that over $1 billion worth of high-end NVIDIA chips have been smuggled into China, completely bypassing US sanctions. When the prize is that big, a fence doesn't look like a wall, it just looks like a challenge. And this next quote, man, it really captures the new reality. For decades, right, Silicon Valley was the undisputed center of the tech universe. But now, especially when you're talking about the race to roll out AI on a massive national scale, a lot of people think the momentum has totally shifted. As the source puts it, if the topic is AI, the sun is rising from China. That's a powerful statement. This arms race is also being fought on a totally different battlefield, a creative one. Okay, so on one side, you have Sony's huge blockbuster game, Horizon Zero Dawn. And on the other, you have Chinese tech giant Tencent's new game. Now just look at the comparison. Red-haired female warrior? Check. Fights giant robotic creatures? Check. Lush post-apocalyptic world? Check. The similarities are, well, they're pretty striking. And Sony definitely thinks so. They're actually suing. This just throws open a massive question for anyone who creates anything. Where is that line between being inspired by something and just illegally copying it? And in this new global game, who even gets to be the judge? And this brings us to our final and honestly most critical point. Because these fights over computer code, over microchips, over who owns an idea, they aren't just abstract corporate battles. They have massive, real-world consequences, especially when the technology we're talking about isn't a video game, but the actual infrastructure that powers our entire society. If you really want to understand the risk of losing control of high technology, just look at what happened at Fukushima. Back in 2011, a massive earthquake causes a nuclear meltdown. Fast forward to today, more than a decade later, and there are still 880 tons of melted nuclear fuel just sitting there. It is so radioactive that it's physically impossible for us to handle it with the technology we have today. And the full cleanup? It just got delayed again, pushing this terrifying problem off for future generations to deal with. And just think about this for a second. This happened in Japan, a nation of world-leading nuclear experts. The prime minister at the time was literally an atomic engineer. So if a country with that level of expertise is struggling this badly to manage its own high-stakes technology, what on earth happens when a country doesn't have that expertise at all? Well, that question isn't hypothetical. It brings us right to the present day. Take, for example, Turkey's brand new nuclear power plant. It wasn't just built by Russia, it's going to be operated by Russia. And this forces us to ask a terrifyingly direct question. Who holds the keys to your country's most critical and most dangerous piece of technology? I mean, the risks here are just immense. What if the political relationship between the two countries goes sour? What if the company that's running the plant goes bankrupt? What if, in the middle of a crisis, they just pack up and leave? You'd have an entire nation left with a ticking time bomb that has no idea how to manage. And even worse, that power plant could be used as a tool for political blackmail. It is the ultimate high-stakes dependency. So here we are, full circle. That free-for-all, Wild West internet is fading away, and it's being replaced by a world of fences, controls, and just incredibly high stakes. A simple fight over who gets to watch a video has morphed into a fight over who owns an idea, which has now become a fight over who literally controls a nation's power grid. It all boils down to the central question of our time, really. As we build this new, fenced-in, regulated world, who gets to decide what happens next? Who gets to write the new rules, and ultimately, who holds all the power?